Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm one of your hosts, Sami here with Angela Belford, and today we are going to be talking about dealing with your inner critic. We have been talking about a couple of different things this year and how we are really setting ourselves up well, whether that be in our processing of grief, how we are addressing maybe conflicting values that we might have. And so now that we talk about sort of that grief when things aren't what we expect it to be, our values and understanding when those are coming in tension, let's talk about some of the voices in your head. So Angela, where do you want to start about this? Inner critic could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, we'll start with definition. I define the inner critic as the voice in our head. No, I'm not supposing that we are all schizophrenic and have voices in our head, but we all do have voices in our head. And it's the things that happen when we are getting ready to make some big moves. So like, I want to take this big risk, like ask somebody out on a date, ask somebody to buy services from my new company. I want to pitch myself for an article. I want to pitch myself to be a public speaker. Like there's so many things that we do. And then there's this reticence that we have and this voice in our head that says, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are that you could do this? And, or like, why would anybody trust you? And imposter syndrome's deeply, deeply, the person that holds the megaphone for your imposter syndrome is absolutely your inner critic. And so I want to say that your brain offers you thoughts and you get to decide if those thoughts and if those ideas and if those voices, if they're helpful or not. And the inner critic I would define as the voices in your head, the thoughts that come to you that are unhelpful in pursuing the goals you have.
I might disagree with you in a way that I think you'll agree with me. I'm going to disagree with how you said it because I know that you actually agree with me in the long term, but we'll pretend for a moment that we're arguing against each other. Sometimes it's not that our inner critic is being unhelpful. It is not that it is the least helpful voice. It is that it is a misaligned goal. It is that our inner critic has very specific goals that it is trying to accomplish that might be different than general goals. And so if the goal is to keep you alive and safe, avoiding every threat is a really good way to stay safe. Don't take a risk. Sure. Means that you're more likely to stay safe. You're not going to die. You're not going to face social ostracization. You're not going to be a social outcast. And it's safer. And so one could argue it's not that it's not helpful. It's that its goals are different than what we might actually have said or have desired for our goals to be. Yeah. See what I mean? See where I'm like, I think you agree with me on this.
I like, it is taking 1000% of my self-control not to be like, but let's check the transcript. I'm pretty sure unhelpful in pursuing the goals. I think your ADD brain. I thought I did say that, but go ahead.
You might have.
That's fine. You did articulate it way more fully than the way I did. So yes, it is absolutely, that's why it's like, it's not, people so often, when I make them aware of this idea of the inner critic, they are like, yeah, kick it to the curb. Like, I don't want to listen to your crap anymore.
How to silence your inner critic.
How to silence your inner critic. I think that's probably a book. And it's like, what my experience has been is that when you do that, it gets louder and louder and louder. And it could get so loud that it turns into a very physical experience called a panic attack. And it's because it feels so unsafe.
Well, it's getting louder because if my job is to keep you safe and you're not listening to me, I have to do my job and keep you safe. And if you're not going to listen to me and you're going to resist, it is it is my moral imperative to make
Mhm.
sure that you can heed my warning, says your inner critic.
Yeah.
And therefore I will throw every resource I have in the arsenal if you're not going to pay attention to me. And yeah, this doesn't always work well.
Well, and then it's like, but I really want, my heart's desire is to have this business that I think is going to help people. It's my heart's desire to be a public speaker. And all of those are scary and dangerous things. And so the thing about kicking it to the curb is that it doesn't solve anything. It's just going to sneak in the back door. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I think is more useful is I like to think of the inner critic and kind of all the voices in my head as like a board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
And you, when you, if you're running a nonprofit, ideally your board of directors has somebody that's really good at marketing and really good at legal and really good at sales and somebody that's really good at HR and accounting. Like when you have a great board, like they have wide variety of skill sets. um if you have a board that has only engineers and accountants on it, then that board may become very resistant to change. They may become very cautious. They may have this big, huge amount of money in their bank account and they may never accomplish their goals. Right. And so, in the same sort of way, we have to recognize that our inner critic has been doing its job, keeping us safe, keeping us alive for a very, very long time, and has been running the board of directors. And so, what I like to think of it for me is, I mean, you guys, have you ever been on a nonprofit board that has a board chair that should have, they had to, we had to change the bylaws so that they cycle off because they should have a term of service. Your term of service has expired. You can still sit on the board as immediate past board chair, but
Or
what
as a
we,
regular board member.
as a regular board member, but you're not going to. I think this really became very clear to me when I became a board chair for a nonprofit, and I got to decide as a board chair who got a voice and who got to ask questions, and when we moved things to a vote and when we moved on. And so if there were people that were getting too disruptive and too like much, then I would like, okay, let's call the question. And so I think that's why it's really helpful for me to think of the inner critic that way. And so what I think instead is by recognizing that it does have value and it is a part of you and it has done its good job, but to transition and to allow a more supportive voice, a voice that is going to encourage you to do the to follow the dreams. Now, one of my favorite things to think about is like, as long as your inner critic is there and is allowed to have a voice, then if you decide you are going to burn your whole life down and you're like, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to move to South Africa, I'm going to excommunicate all my family members, like I'm just going to, like, there's nothing wrong with moving to South Africa if that's what you feel called to do, but like rage quit everything, then your inner critic might go, hey, hi, hi, can we take a pause? Like maybe we need to take a breath.
Well, I don't know about you, Angela, but my inner critic might respond with something like, "Are you effing crazy?" So yours might say, "Hey, sweetheart." I don't know. Mine's a little. I think we were
Yeah,
putting a
you're right.
polite tone on it.
I think the inner coach is the one that's asking you like, "Hey, are you sure about that?" The inner critic is like, have you lost your mind?"
Are you? Yeah. So very loud.
Very, very loud. And so that's helpful because you don't need to burn your house down or you don't need to burn your life down. And
I just had this thought in my head that your inner critic is probably somebody who's like a northerner because they don't lead with the like southern hospitality. And then I was like, is that offensive to say? So all of our people listening, what do you think? Do you think that your inner critic is more northern or southern? I don't know. It does feel like that though, that like really direct bluntness. Like that's not what you're finding in this space. I don't know.
typically, I
yeah.
think you're right. Now, I'd be very curious, actually, if there are people who their inner critic might be, and I don't know that they would be called the inner critic. It's probably the saboteur, where it really just convinces you, like, that's not the best. Oh, you don't really want it. Why would you want to be a public speaker? Why would you want to promote your book, Angela? Because when you promote your book, you have panic attacks. So that's not a good idea. See, that wasn't my inner critic. It was actually kind of a little saboteur voice that was just like, hey, they were much more subtle. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just stop doing that. Let's just stop.
Isn't that
And
better?
see, look, it's better. You're not having panic attacks. Anyway,
If we could maybe zoom out for a second, I think
yeah,
that there also this in like therapy and psychology is something that like people do specific work on. This whole, if
yeah,
you're unfamiliar with the like, what do you mean I have voices in my head? That means I'm crazy. Nope, it doesn't. It probably means that you like if you might have engaged in some parts therapy and interconnected family systems therapy and different things like that. And I think that what helps me with my inner critic is specifically naming, and to your point about like noticing the saboteur, who are all of the people that I want at
mm-hmm.
the table. And sometimes there are people who are at the table of my brain, which by the way, maybe I don't know what this says about me, but like I can tell you the artwork on the wall of the boardroom in my brain. I know what the table is made out of. I know what kinds of rolly chairs everyone sits in. I know the shape of the table. Like I get deep in my like what does it look like to go to the boardroom of my brain? You know the Belford group table that's made out of the concrete? It's that shape and that material. That's what's in the boardroom in my brain.
Of course it
Anyway,
is.
I I like to name who else is here. Who are the quiet voices that have not had a chance to speak yet? And let's make sure
Mm-hmm.
they have a turn with the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's some other voices that like pipe up, and then I will have 11-year-old Sammy who's kind of throwing a temper tantrum, and 11-year-old Sammy is also a member of the boardroom. Like she has a seat at the table. She does. She has thoughts and feelings and opinions that matter. And I think where in the metaphor of things, there does not need to be a term limit for you yourself to sit as the leader of the board. I think
100%.
other people have other parts of us will commandeer leadership, especially where we're releasing it and abdicating it. But I think that when we own, I am the leader of this board. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for your opinion. I'd like to hear from everyone at the table. That is one of the ways that helps me battle my inner critic is to be like, who else do I need to hear from? And who
I
else am I
love that.
not listening to? And it feels like you do that in real life too. I'm like, oh, there's quiet voices. I want to make sure they have a turn.
I love that. And I recently saw an Instagram post that said there are only two people that you really need to worry about whether they're proud of you: 8-year-old you who is full of hope and dreams, and 80-year-old you that is full of memories
Mm-hmm.
and and fulfillment from what you have accomplished. And I love that because I was like, man, I don't know that in the boardroom, the 8-year-old me, she is a lot of times wrestling control of the trying to sit there, because that was the version of me that decided nobody could be trusted. Everybody leaves eventually, so she's going to remind me of that and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I don't get myself in those situations, because everybody leaves eventually. And which is also a weird thing because she's not wrong, but also it's not helpful.
Like we talked about before in previous weeks, where sometimes you're like, wow, that's true. Kind of sucks, but like, is that the most helpful thought right now? Is that the most helpful thing for me to move forward?
But that
Probably the right
doesn't mean just
question.
because everyone is going to leave, because everyone dies, does not mean that I should not have relationships. And I think oftentimes, when
Right.
if everybody's going to leave, then she has made it mean do not stay in relationships long term. And so, but I hadn't thought about putting 80-year-old me in. And
Mm.
we've talked about having your 90th birthday party. But I really love that, remembering that they got to have a voice here too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm very pleased with the assortment of community that I have. And I love that I have a lot of 70, 80, and a few 90-year-olds that are in my friend group, who I just they give you so much perspective and
Mm-hmm.
so much, um, it's just going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And when you look at somebody that's lived 80 years and they tell you it's going to be okay, it's hard to argue with them, you know? So,
You don't know. You weren't there. And they're like, sweetie, I was there. I do know. You don't know.
you don't know. You think this is bad.
Right. What
Right.
other strategies do you have to sort of, I don't know, live with your inner critic?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is for me is to, there's a pendulum swing I think we do where we go and we say like, oh, the inner critic is terrible. I'm going to quit talking bad to myself. I'm going to, there's all kinds
Mm-hmm.
of stuff about that. And so I'm going to pendulum swing over to the cheerleader. And I'm going to talk about, oh my gosh, everything is amazing and everything is wonderful. And this is where we get into kind of toxic positivity. My favorite thought on this is like, my kids played soccer, and when they first played soccer, I didn't know all the rules. So I'm like, yay, sweetie, yay, go, go, go. And I remember when Josh started playing competitive soccer, he had been on rec. He'd been up in front. He was a forward. He was scoring goals all the time. And he gets to competitive travel soccer, and his coach is like puts him in defense. And we spent a lot of money, and we're going to these tournaments. We're losing like in the finals, and I'm like, "Hi, coach. I don't know if you know, but my son, he's very fast and he can score. And we're losing." And he goes, acts like I'm an idiot. Like, you care about U12 boys soccer. And I'm like, I'm spending a lot of money for my kid to be really disappointed that they lost and he didn't get to be used. And he said, does your kid want to play soccer in high school? I'm like, yeah, he does. And he goes, then if he only plays this one position, then he gets up onto high school team, then he may ride the bench, because what if there's an upperclassman that is really amazing, the best in the state, then he will ride the bench. But if I can teach him defense, then not only is he a stronger team player, but if he does get the opportunity to play offense, he now knows how a defender is thinking. And so it actually helps him be better at offense, because he knows how a defender is thinking. And that struck me, that coach was more interested in developing my kid than I just didn't have a vision. I didn't know what I didn't know. I had never taken a kid through soccer, right? And so I didn't know how to think about how to prepare him. And I think there's some elements of, sometimes when I'm working with people and this is the way they've always been, I have so many people that are like, no, 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 my inner critic, it pushes me to perfectionism, and
Mm-hmm.
that's good. And I'm an attorney. I need to be a perfectionist. And no, 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 my inner critic is what gets me out of bed. It's what makes me set big goals. It's what does these things. And I'm like, yeah, but your inner critic is trying to outrun those beliefs. Your inner critic is focused on, I'm not going to live up. Everybody said I was never going to accomplish anything. You really do need to not be the inner critic. You don't need to be the soccer cheerleader mom that doesn't know what she's talking about, but you really need to embody what that coach created a vision and a development plan and where the future might go for my son.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the most important thing we can do is to develop that coach mentality of like, where are we going? How are we getting pulled forward into what we want instead of running away from what we don't want? Now, here's the bonus, is when you go toward what you want, you inadvertently and without trying, you're actually outrunning. I mean, you'll outrun the negative.
So, what is really striking me really deeply right now is just how interconnected everything is. Because to your point about you, another take on the story about Josh and his soccer coach, you may not know what board positions that you need in your head because you don't even know. because you've never even been there. And developing, I've heard a lot of people who've talked about who's the board of directors for your life, and not in your brain like we were talking about, but like who are the relationships you have that you consult when you have big decisions or things like that. There is an element that building relationships with other people and asking really good questions and getting to know people and being like, I'm wrestling with this thing. How do you think about this? How have you approached this in your life? And having like a wide range of folks that you can talk to and interact with, the 70 and 80-year-olds in your life, and frankly, the seventh graders in your life, because like kids these days, as they say, but there's something about youth that like one doesn't change, and two, we need to be reminded of like, oh yeah, it is just that simple. And so if you are in a spot where you're like, I don't even know what I don't know. I don't know who I'm supposed to have on here. Sami, you keep talking about, you ask who else is not speaking at the microphone. Who are the other people who are even supposed to speak at the microphone? Well, you can learn that. One, keep listening to our podcast. We talk about lots of these things all the time. Two, there are people in your life that you can ask these questions to, and I bet they would be honored to share. Like when you're trying to look at something, I especially would ask the people if they live a life that you want to emulate, that you want to live a similar life. You're like, I love the way they do this thing. Now, when you have somebody and you're like, I don't really like the way that they live their life this way, I'm probably not asking that person, so how'd you come to that decision? I don't know. I don't really want that decision. I don't really want their outcomes. But people have really great outcomes that I want. Ask them. Why not? And you might feel really insecure and nervous about reaching out and asking that question. Oh, they don't want to talk to me or whatever. Very few people are ever going to be offended that you're like, I would love to hear your thoughts on this thing. People love to talk about themselves. So, why not invite that and take a learning from it?
They absolutely do. And who you are today and who you will be 5 years from now is deeply impacted by the people that you meet, the books that you read, and the information that you consume. So whether that is podcasts, whether that is YouTube videos, documentaries, like
whether that's doom scrolling on social media, that's gonna impact.
Yes,
that's inputs
that's the positive. Yes, and then the negative is like if you watch news 24/7, that is going to impact. Those are the voices that are being created in your head. Because
I also think crime shows, that's the other one I'm going to start maybe going after. Too many people, it's like there's so much crime, and I'm like, maybe, but like maybe we just need to stop watching murder mystery whatever open file things.
Yeah,
there's probably not that many out there, statistically speaking. So
probably depends on where you live, but yes.
Well, yeah. Maybe okay, acknowledging my privilege where I'm at.
Sure. No, I mean, like, but find out for real. Like, what are the for real stats? Because especially as we roll into an election year, there's going to be a lot of people telling a lot of stories about how much crime there is, and you're like, but is there really? Is there really? Yeah. And is there more violent crime, or are there more drug-related crime? And if there's more drug-related crime, is some of that because we don't have good mental health services and people have to self-medicate?
I also think that if you are somebody who's like, well, you guys are, throwing rocks at the news, but I want to be informed, what's wrong with looking at primary source documents? Because primary source documents are not as often going to have a talking head spin on it and not going to have, here's how I want you to feel. What do you mean
by it? Tell us.
Oh, a primary source document. Sorry, that I get real nerdy. Read the bills that you're upset about with Congress, and I realize that is also, I'm like, go just take that 52-page document and like give it a quick skim. And I know that that's not always doable. There are resources that can help break these things down, but when somebody in the news is trying to elicit an emotional response from you, somebody's making money off of you. Like that's what's happening. And so if you find yourself experiencing a lot of negative emotions, frankly, even a lot of positive emotions, somebody somewhere is writing a narrative. And if you don't want that, then there's ways to like Go to your city council meeting on your own. You don't have to read the newspaper interpretation of the city council meeting. Go, like, don't read the Facebook comment wall about what happened at the I'm thinking of specific examples in our towns. What happened at the meeting with the superintendent at the school about different things going on? Go to the meeting with the superintendent. Ask the superintendent your questions. Go talk to real people, not just reading things on the internet. I think I've gotten off my point a little bit, but
That's okay. No, but I think
good media
cultivating
literacy.
a yes, yep, side step on cultivating who are you allowing to create and to put information into your brain, because I can tell you I do not read the news. Hard stop.
Mm-hmm.
And which is a little bit tricky when you're in leadership with League of Women Voters. Here's what I can tell you is that if something big happens, I get an email and then I can go read about it. I'll be in a meeting and somebody will be like, can you believe blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, ooh, I didn't hear about that. And then I go and I Google and I read two different sources. I decide, and then between reading two different sources, I don't actually do what Sami does, which read like 4 or 5 different sources. Usually, I've curated one on the right, one on the left, and in between, I kind of can figure out what happened.
It's only on like bigger things. I don't have the capacity to do that all the time. It's on like bigger topics, and yeah, you will find me reading the actual Constitution. I'm just that kind of person. You will find me as the person that all my friends come to. Because speaking of being an election year, they're going to be like, hey, I'm sure you've read every single candidate's website. And you're like, indeed, I have. I have read their personal website, not just what other people say about them. What would you like to know? I'm not a primary source document. And I'm also trying to encourage the people who come to me, like, you're still getting my interpretation of this.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, and what they have said is that they appreciate your values and your alignment, and so they are going to let you be a voice in their head because they trust you.
Way to bring it back around.
They trust your spin and your interpretation aligns with the way they want their life and the world to be, and so that's why they trust your interpretation.
I love it. So to recap, because we got a little rabbit traily and I want to make sure that people, I have a good grasp. We are not here to recommend firing your inner critic. We've been there. We've done that. We've gotten the t-shirt. It did not go well. Take a note from us. It's probably not going to work out for you. Things you can do instead. You can recognize that they are one seat in the board of directors in your brain. They are not all of the seats. They do not need to be the leader of the board of directors. Mm-hmm. Their goals, understand that their goals are going to be different than your goals might be. The inner critic's goal is to try keep you safe. Your goal might be to live a fulfilling life. Sometimes those things might be at odds, and that's okay to recognize that I'm going to pursue a fulfilling life, even if that means that I'm living, quote, dangerously, as in, engaging in ways people might judge me. Right. Danger. Was there anything else we said, Angela?
I think the last thing would be to cultivate that that future that you want to behold. What is your 80-year-old? What do you want your 80-year-old to say about you? And really understanding where you want to go, because what your inner critic does is it protects you from things that have happened to you in the past, right? Mm-hmm. Like you had most of the time when your inner critic is trying to pause you and keep you from doing something, it has actual legitimate evidence of something bad that happened to you or someone you know. Yeah. And so you have to push past that to be able to see that there is a different version, a different future that I want to pursue.
Absolutely. Well, this week, if I could encourage you, maybe try to take a moment, and the baby step that we're going to encourage this week is notice. Notice when that voice in your head is the inner critic. See if you can name it. See if before you go on this big quest to try like dethrone them, the first step is genuinely noticing where it's coming up in your life. And take those practices to try to be like, oh, that might not have actually been in alignment with my goals. That action, that thought, might have been the inner critic. So that's going to be the encouragement for you this week, is to really try to take a moment and a breather to notice when it's showing up, notice how it's impacting you, and then you'll be able to kind of make a more educated plan, for more informed plan.
I want to think about what our next 2 episodes are, our next episodes, so that we can
tease it
out. Yeah. The one way I wrote it down was expectations aren't going like you wanted, the messy middle.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've already done the goal of growth doesn't mean no bad days. And then just in this conversation related to also some of the other things, the difference between abdicating and allowing. So, but I think expectations aren't going to.
What's the difference between abdicating and allowing?
Well, you were talking about just like abandoning, like I'm just going to throw my hands up and just life happens to me the way I want to. I can't control anything. I don't have any control. And I think allowing is kind of leaning in, and you don't fight it, but you're also not just. I want to talk. I'm not sure. I'm not saying I'm ready to talk about it this minute.
Well, because we were talking about allowing and condoning after your conversation before, and I was like, wait, allowing and condoning and abdicating, but I think they're different. But maybe they aren't
different.
But maybe that's the conversation.
Yeah, I'm either completely like just resisting is the other thing. Kind of one ditch is resisting, one ditch is like just totally avoiding and avoidance and not doing anything, which is what the abdicating I think is doing. Abdicating, avoiding, all of those things. Like I'm just going to put my head in the sand. And then what I said, the middle ground, what to do if you don't resist and what to do if you don't.
I like that. That feels like expectations as well. I don't know if there's that much different on that.
It might be. I think there's just a lot to say about allowing.
Is there enough different to say about expectations?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I do like. What was the other one you said?
Expectations of things aren't going as. This is the thing: is expectations aren't being met. Like life isn't as easy as we thought, and golly, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. To me, it's so then what do you do about it? You have those 3 options. Right. Like,
okay.
You can either allow, you can avoid, or you can resist.
Resistance is futile. No.
Making that a real.
How about we not talk about abdicating, allowing, but on this you just say we're going to talk about expectations. What do you do when things aren't going well? Like you're like you've got exactly what you want and it's still not.
Yeah, perfect. Can you say, like, this has been such a great conversation, I'm excited we're going to talk about this?
Yep.
And then I can,
This is such a fantastic conversation. I can tell you I have a number of clients I'll be sharing this episode with, and I'm really excited about our next episode the conversation is really around the idea of like, okay, I got exactly what I wanted and it's not perfect. It's not amazing. It's still hard. There's still things about it that I don't love about it. And it's really...
The grass wasn't exactly greener.
It wasn't. And so what to do with unmet expectations really is what we're going to be talking about next.
And the met expectations that then, that's not what I thought it was. All of that. So good. Yeah. I can't wait for that next conversation. It's going to be really, really great. If this episode was helpful for you, share it with a friend. Start a conversation about your inner critics together. Open up a little bit, because I bet that they might be feeling something probably similar to you, or there's someone in your life at least who is. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.